Welcome to Manhwa Nirwana. This video is a continuation of the previous one. If you haven't watched it yet, click the button above to check it out. Let's start. The story begins with our young warrior lying on his bed feeling extremely happy. Kim tells himself how great it is that he got this beautiful room as a reward for his good deeds, expressing pride in himself. When he recalls a past moment, his expression turns serious. He recalls with regret and sadness that back then he didn't have enough strength. If he had, he could have saved the beautiful woman, Catherine, who is in danger. Moments later, he suddenly remembers something important. Is he completely forgotten? What is the goblin point he received from the Goblin Lord? A panel appears in front of him showing his name in the current class. Kim Kale-soo, Goblin Summoner. With one goblin point in his possession, he sarcastically wonders whether the goblins will start seeing him as their brother. If he keeps earning points, especially since he got them through cunning and trickery, he keeps earning points. Kim decides to open the goblin's skill shop but finds all the advanced skills locked. He realizes he has no choice but to select the only available skill. He uses the goblin gathering skill and wonders aloud what this skill actually does. Suddenly and terrifyingly, the goblin he summoned before bursts into the room with overwhelming force. Kim screams in panic when he realized that the goblin gathering was a summoning skill, not a regular one, making him extremely anxious that someone might discover the goblin is in his room. He panics trying to calm the goblin, who is now causing chaos around the room. He tells it that they're in trouble if anyone finds out and wonders what he should do. Kim hears the innkeeper knocking on the door, asking worriedly if he is okay. Kim responds awkwardly that he's fine and tells the man to leave if he doesn't want to die, then quickly corrects himself and just asks him to go away. Kim tries to calm the goblin, quickly apologizing for what happened earlier and asking it to calm down and drop whatever it's holding. Later that night, Kim talks quietly to the goblin, expressing his frustration over what happened to them. He was mocked and attacked even though he didn't do anything wrong. Kim looks at the goblin sadly and tells it that they are the same, and the goblin responds softly. Kim continues speaking while lying next to the goblin on the bed, saying this world is full of bad people. Where in the city, the door of a tavern swings open and a staff member welcomes new guests. Inside the tavern, some members of the Everton guild are seated. One of them spots Kim and sharply says he's the jerk from yesterday. Kim is flustered and shyly admits it, saying he was the one who saved a member of the Everton guild, but he feels tense being in such a crowded place without his goblin by his side. In Haeuk, the harbinger of death from the Everton guild speaks to him with a piercing gaze, saying there is no real reason for Kim to help them after what happened, but thanks him anyway. With a chilling tone that terrifies Kim, who begs him not to thank him with that scary look, Jaehyun tells In Haeuk there is no need to be so cautious. Kim doesn't look like he's going to fight, but in her heart, she knows they're completely fooled by him since he's hiding the truth about the goblin. Kim confirms what happened and openly admits that he helped them despite their earlier attempts to kill him because he needs something from them. In Haeuk, he agrees and says they owe him. The Everton guild always forgets a favor and they'll help him however they can. Kim explains he no longer benefits from staying in the beginner zone, especially since he's past level 30 and wants to move to a new region quickly. He asks if they know how to get there. In Haeuk asks if he means a place called Fjornale and adds that he may know someone who can help him get there. When an old man interrupts from afar, declaring he knows exactly how to get to Fjornale. The old man quickly approaches Kim and apologizes sincerely for the incident between them. The man speaks calmly, saying that after seeing what Kim did with only one goblin, it's clear he is extremely powerful. Paid in the Destroyer, level 28, agrees, adding that Kim might even be stronger than they are, which makes him feel a bit annoyed. Kim starts thinking to himself, saying internally that he's not stronger than them. If In Haeuk had attacked him as promised, he would have died in a single hit. In Beginner Zone Leaf, which consists of 5 standard dungeons, including the grass area where slimes appear, the Mind Dungeon, the Dark Forest area, and others. These dungeons are known as open field dungeons, which are accessible at any time. If Kim wants to leave the Leaf Zone, he must first clear a raid boss dungeon, which makes Kim curiously ask what exactly a raid boss dungeon is. What is the difference between open field and raid dungeons? They have gates that open and close at specific times with limitations on the number of attempts and game time. In Hayuk, the raid boss dungeon is the final dungeon of every area and that players must be at a high enough level before attempting it. He explains that the raid boss dungeon in Leaf opens once a month and the reason everyone is gathered now is to prepare for it. At that moment, Kim realizes that their presence here means something important. In Hayuk confirms this and explains that the raid boss dungeon had already opened the day before, but that the damned goblin who appeared suddenly destroyed everything. Kim is shocked when he hears this, suddenly realizing he'll be stuck in the Leaf Zone until the raid boss dungeon opens again in a full month. He begins to rage as he recalls earning over $200,000 from defeating the level 80 monster and realizes that the goblin he has could easily clear even tougher dungeons, yet now he's stuck for an entire month earning nothing. Kim grabs in Hayuk by the collar and screams furiously, demanding to know if there is another way out, refusing to waste his valuable time. In Hayuk, he assures him that it's true and says everyone is angry about the wasted opportunity. He then declares their debt to Kim has been repaid and the group begins preparing to leave. As the group leaves, Kim looks sad and frustrated about what has happened. While leaving, Ji-hun glances back at Kim with a sympathetic look before following the other outside. Outside, the members of the Everton Guild quietly leave the area under the cover of night. In the meantime, the goblin is seen hiding behind a wooden crate, laughing slightly. When a goblin lifts its head, it senses something unusual. The night sky is clear above the area. The raid boss dungeon gate is opened once again and a clear system message appears. Has raid boss dungeon been opened? Is there a 30-day wait for the next raid? In Hayuk stares intensely at the gate, mentally repeating that the raid boss dungeon isn't supposed to be opened now. At the same time, a clear message appears before Kim Chael-soo telling him that the raid boss dungeon has reopened, leaving him standing in disbelief. Patton says the raid boss dungeon has already reopened. Is it true that everyone stands before the gate, which suddenly opened one day after it was last accessed? In Hyuk asks the old man how many people are inside the dungeon. The old man replies that nobody is there now since the team that was ready completed it yesterday and moved on to the next area. In Hyuk then remarks that this means that they are the only ones here this time. At that moment, Kim Chael-soo grins maliciously and says he knows something felt off. He accuses the guild members of lying to him, realizing they tried to trick him into falling behind so they could enter the dungeon first, claiming they betrayed him to go ahead. Kim screams in frustration, blaming himself for trusting them again, despite everything he's been through before. Ji-hyun tries to deny the accusation, nervously telling Kim that he's completely misunderstanding the situation and that they didn't deceive him. But Hyuk ignores the tension and calmly asks Kim whether he wants to go with them or not. Kim firmly responds that he won't let them enter without him and enjoy the rewards alone. In Hyuk agrees and decides to quickly explain the situation before they go into. He explains that their intel suggests this raid dungeon consists of a single room with the dungeon boss right at the start, so they need to be fully prepared. He adds that it probably won't be too dangerous since their levels are far higher than this dungeon's, but still advises caution just in case. Then Patton the Destroyer interjects with arrogance, claiming even if the guild leader isn't present, all of Everton's top members are. Everyone gets excited and prepares for entering. Payton boasts even more, declaring they'll defeat Payton in just 10 seconds. In Hyuk calmly and confidently says it's time to start and they all move towards the gate. Kim tells the goblin it would be a real hassle if the others found out about it and asks it to stay hidden until he summons it personally. He suddenly remembers his past betrayal and firmly decides he will not let it happen again. He checks his inventory and finds he still has Advanced Healing Stone, an item that revives the player with 100 HP if their health hits 0. He's surprised to have it, wondering how it wasn't used before. Kim decides to ignore the detail and rushes towards the gate, telling himself it doesn't matter now. He finally enters the dungeon, stepping through the portal. Upon entering, Kim is stunned by the environment and says in amazement, "So this is the raid boss dungeon?" Suddenly a steel giant appears before them, causing everyone to panic and scream that this isn't a regular dungeon, it's a hidden one. On the screen a message appears confirming it, "Hidden Dungeon, Steel Giant's Lair." In-hyuk yells at the old man, angrily demanding what kind of plan this is. The man responds in confusion, saying he doesn't know about it. Ji-hun then shouts at Kim in fear and panic, begging him to stop standing still and run towards the gate, but Kim smirks sarcastically and asks if they're seriously joking right now. He yells angrily at the team, accusing them of planning to flee the dungeon and sarcastically asks if they have any idea what kind of rewards a dungeon like this holds. One team member snaps back saying everyone already knows that, but the problem is that the boss is level 40 and a hit from it won't just kill them. It can lead to more serious consequences. Kim challenges this, saying the level difference is only 10 and at worst they'll suffer serious injuries, not face retirement. Kim concludes his argument by confidently asking whether they think earning great rewards is supposed to be easy, insisting they can't even imagine the kinds of things that happen to them. Treasures hidden dungeons can offer. Kim continued speaking, defiantly challenging the team members who had decided to run away. He sarcastically said they were free to run off if they wanted. He would just take all the rewards for himself. Then Kim activated his special Goblin summoner skill and shouted with force that he was summoning the Goblin to come and save him. But the Goblin outside didn't realize what was happening, looking around in confusion, not understanding the sudden summon. Meanwhile, the steel giant monster charged at Kim with great speed and power, ready to attack. Kim screamed again in desperation and frustration, trying to summon the Goblin and ordering it to come out immediately. But the summon didn't succeed in time. Kim took a direct hit from the giant, killing him instantly. A system message appeared announcing his death. Peyton looked at Kim's body mockingly and remarked with disbelief that he couldn't believe this was the same guy who fought the Goblin yesterday, only to die so pitifully. In-yoke spoke with cold indifference, saying they didn't care what happened to Kim. But he quickly noticed that the gate had suddenly closed, leaving him deeply surprised. The old man then said seriously that they had underestimated this dungeon, explaining that there's a rare chance for a hidden dungeon to appear from a standard raid dungeon. He further explained that this is why they're now facing a level 40 steel giant and that they have no choice left but to fight. Meanwhile, Kim suddenly woke up, screaming in pain from the shock, outraged that he was killed in one hit, despite being over level 30, and angrily questioned how he could die so easily. Then Kim noticed with deep disappointment that he had completely forgotten to use his available stat points. He had 26 points unused, which could have helped him in battle. He then realized with regret that he could no longer summon the Goblin due to the gate being closed and began blaming the Goblin for not responding in time, saying the treasure had been so close. Immediately after that, the evident team leader shouted with excitement and force, declaring the start of the attack and urging the team to begin the hunt. Kim was completely shocked by what he was hearing and couldn't believe what was unfolding in front of him. At that moment, Ji-hoon launched her attack using a special skill called Wind Arrow, which doubled the movement speed of all team members. Two team members, In-yuk, the Shadow, and Min Se-yong, the Speedmaster, dashed forward at high speed, preparing to strike the steel giant. The old man instructed In-yuk and Min Se-yong to be the first to attack the monster and try to identify its weak point. He explained that thanks to Ji-hoon's speed boost, the monster wouldn't be able to counterattack quickly. In-yuk and Min Se-yong launched a fast and synchronized assault from multiple directions against the steel giant, but the monster responded with a terrifying roar as it tried to resist their attacks. Then In-yuk and Min Se-yong used a powerful joint skill called Sequential Slash, which consisted of 16 consecutive hits. The old man explained that every monster has at least one weak point, and with this combined skill, they should be able to accurately identify it. After the attack, In-yuk asked Min Se-yong if he had discovered the monster's weak point, but Min Se-yong replied that the total damage dealt was 0, leaving him utterly confused. In-yuk agreed and said there might be two possibilities. Either the monster's defense was extremely high or there was another unknown reason, especially after they saw the monster roar in furious rage. Right after that, the leader In-yuk, wearing a black cloak, leapt forward and delivered a powerful strike toward the monster, using a skill called Peerless Blade. But even after that strong attack, the leader said their weaker hits were ineffective against the monster, explaining that it had a special skill called Hatred of the Weak. A system message clearly stated that this passive ability completely nullifies any attack that deals less than 5% of the monster's total HP. Peyton continued shouting toward In-yuk the Shadow, saying that he was the only one capable of dealing damage to a level 40 monster. But the old man firmly replied that In-yuk wasn't the one with the strongest attack here. there was someone else who could perform better, depending on the situation. At that moment, Ji-yoon, the bringer of death, prepared her powerful skill, Final Death Arrow, telling herself that if the guild found out she had this skill, they'd demand she become the guild leader. Peyton was stunned when he heard Ji-yoon possess such a skill and shouted that he didn't know what it did, but promised to buy her enough time to use it, no matter what it cost him. He then activated his skill, War Cry, roaring with intensity to draw the monster's attention toward himself. It worked. The monster roared back in rage and focused its attack entirely on Peyton. Meanwhile, Kim, still lying on the ground, watched the events unfold with tension and frustration, calling Peyton an idiot for drawing the monster's attention instead of running. The monster attacked with brutal force and dealt massive damage, but Peyton managed to withstand it without dying. Peyton mocked the monster after the blow, saying he expected it to be stronger, claiming the damage was minor. But the old man shouted at Peyton, warning him not to be careless, stressing that their success depended on not making any mistakes. At that point, the old man used the skill, Pain Sharing, which splits incoming damage between him and Peyton. He explained that the one with higher HP would take more of the damage. Kim observed the situation carefully, noticing that their levels were relatively low and that none of them had hidden classes, which only increased his confusion about their true strength. At the same time, the leader of the assassination team declared that their plan relied on the two warriors distracting the monster, while the assassination team would reduce the monster's defense using their passive skills. He explained they had a passive skill called Weak Point Reduction, which decreased the enemy's defense by 2% with a 1% chance per attack, and it could stack up to 5 times. Kim was amazed by their impressive coordination and power as he watched the battle between them and the monster. He began to wonder to himself if this was the true strength of a powerful, well-organized guild. Kim felt frustrated because he was dead and wouldn't gain any experience or rewards if the monster was defeated by someone else. He feared he might lose everything. At that moment, the monster suddenly focused its attention on Peyton again, who was startled and felt uneasy by the monster's terrifying approach. Peyton shouted angrily at the monster, asking why it was looking elsewhere, and reminding it that he was the enemy it should be attacking. But the monster slammed the ground with tremendous force, causing a powerful tremor that showed just how strong it truly was. At that moment, Kim stood up, having decided to use the advanced healing stone to revive himself. He sarcastically said he couldn't watch these losers fight anymore, and that he would help them since he had the highest level among them. A system message appeared, confirming that the advanced healing stone revives the player with 100 HP when their health reaches 0. Kim smirked and said to himself that the hero always arrives late. Suddenly, the system announced that the Steel Giant had chosen Kim Chil-soo as its target. The Steel Giant used a wide-area skill called Surface Destruction, instantly killing many team members. Kim screamed in anger, wishing he had revived earlier. Several team members were thrown back by the sheer force of the attack, severely injured by the impact. Peyton stood stunned as he saw his teammates lying injured around him, then shouted in fury at the monster, demanding to know how it dared hurt his allies. The old man yelled, warning Peyton not to lose focus now, but Peyton ignored the warning and unleashed his powerful skill, Giant Slash, charging at the monster with great force. Despite the strength of the attack, the damage Peyton inflicted was only 3,890 points, demonstrating how powerful and difficult this monster truly was. The old man continues using the skill, Pain Distribution, to share damage with Peyton, but he takes a very heavy hit. 2,456 HP and mutters in pain and regret that his plan didn't work. A system message then appears announcing the deaths of both Peyton, the Destroyer, and the cunning old man. Kim stands frozen in place, shocked and confused, wondering what he just did. Furious, Kim begins shouting defensively, saying it wasn't his fault and all he did was simply revive himself. At that moment, Inhook the Shadow reappears in a battle stance, ready to act. He recalls how monsters usually prefer targeting healers or ranged fighters before heavily armored tanks. Inhook continues analyzing, pointing out that because of Peyton's War Cry skill, which provoked the monster, it focused its attacks on Peyton instead of going after the healers. He concludes that Kim's unexpected resurrection disrupted the monster's target priority, causing it to suddenly refocus and wipe out the entire team before they could react. Meanwhile, Ji-Hee-un, the bringer of death, nervously asks In-hook what she should do. Should she release her arrow now or not? Her skill, one-shot death bow, consumes her own HP when used, and her current HP is only at 46%. But In-hook yells angrily, demanding that she not fire the arrow now, explaining that it could ruin their entire plan. He further clarifies that the assassination team's passive skill hasn't reached its full potential yet. It has only stacked 3 out of 5 times, which is not enough to defeat the monster in a single blow. In-hook decides to take responsibility for drawing the monster's attention and instructs Ji-Hee-un not to cancel her skill under any circumstances. He clearly states that if Ji-Hee-un fails to land her finishing blow, they will have no chance of victory. Meanwhile, Kim cautiously tries to offer his help to Ji-Hee-un, hesitantly asking if there's anything he can do to assist. But Ji-Hee-un responds harshly, mocking him and asking what he could possibly do without his goblin, and tells him to do nothing because he's just a nuisance to them right now. Kim wonders sadly why she looks at him like that. Was it simply because he didn't have his goblin with him now? He then starts blaming the others internally, saying it's their fault he couldn't bring his goblin. With a crazed smile, Kim continues his inner monologue, insisting that they're the real culprits despite being so weak and wondering why they treat him this way, even though they desperately need him. Kim starts remembering his goblin's level 999 and sarcastically tells himself that he'll just let them suffer and die on their own. At that moment, the steel giant selects Ji-Hee-un, the bringer of death, as its next target and charges toward her with incredible speed. In-hyuk realizes the monster is now focusing on Ji-Hee-un, just as he predicted, since she's the long-range damage dealer. He tries to redirect the monster's attention back to himself, yelling at it that he is the one it should be fighting. He uses a powerful offensive skill called Twin Blade Frenzy, dealing 1920 damage to the monster. But the monster immediately retaliates with a terrifying roar and an immensely strong attack. In-hyuk leaps high, barely dodging the strike, and shouts that the battle isn't over yet. He resumes his assault, once again trying to pull the monster's focus back to him. He uses Twin Blade Frenzy again, dealing an additional 1908 damage. He continues striking quickly and relentlessly, trying to force the monster to view him as the primary threat. He attacks the monster a third time with the same skill, landing another 1912 damage. Finally, In-hyuk pauses for a moment, surprised that it took 3 full-powered hits before the monster even started to see him as a real threat. The steel giant continues its terrifying roar, and a message appears confirming that it has selected In-hyuk the Shadow as its target. Another screen shows the monster's current HP, still at 22,460 out of 30,000. In-hyuk has puzzled that his previous attacks weren't enough, despite the 3 stacks of the defense-reducing skill. He realizes that all he can do now is buy time for Ji-Yoon, so he taunts the monster mockingly, asking if it's angry yet. In-hyuk uses a special assassination skill called Rapid Evasion, which allows him to dodge all physical attacks for 3 seconds. He declares that the next 3 seconds belong to him. But at a critical moment, a terrifying message appears before him. He lacks enough mana to activate the skill. In-hyuk is struck with horror and disbelief. Because of the mana shortage, In-hyuk takes a direct, powerful hit from the monster, sending him flying as he screams in pain from the massive damage. At that moment, Kim stands in shock as In-hyuk's body collapses at his feet. A system message appears, declaring the death of In-hyuk the Shadow. Kim begins screaming hysterically, accusing the team of being stupid and weak. He says he would have been better off staying dead and deeply regrets reviving himself in this situation. But Ji-Yoon shouts at him in fury, yelling that his revival is what ruined everything and caused the situation to spiral out of control. The two enter into a heated, tense argument. Ji-Yoon insists that if she had just 10 more seconds, she could have finished it. Kim yells back that he'd rather everyone die than let them take the rewards without him. At that moment, the steel giant lets out another earth-shaking roar. Both Kim and Ji-Yoon turn toward the monster, screaming in fear as they realize it has now targeted them. A message confirms that the steel giant has selected Ji-Yoon the bringer of death as its target and is rapidly closing in on them. Ji-Yoon stops arguing and screams that now isn't the time for blame. She decides to fire her arrow immediately, even though it hasn't fully charged. But she notices Kim standing strangely beside her and asks with confusion what he's doing. Kim turns to her with a sinister smile and asks her an ominous question, saying she can't move while charging her arrow, right? Ji-yoon is startled and asks nervously what he's planning to do. She screams in terror, begging Kim not to come near her. But Kim suddenly grabs her and begins running at full speed, shouting that she was the one who said she needed 10 more seconds. While Ji-yoon screams in shock and fear, Kim leaps, dodging the monster's attack at the last second, laughing maniacally as he enjoys the dangerous chase. Ji-yoon is stunned by Kim's speed and asks how he could possibly be moving so fast, like Inhuk the Shadow. In his mind, Kim reveals that he allocated all 26 of his unspent stat points into speed, making him exceptionally fast enough to rival professional assassins. Suddenly, Kim realizes that his earlier argument with Ji-yoon earned him an additional Goblin point. He begins to wonder if the Goblin Lord is trying to tell him that he was the one in the wrong. At that moment, Ji-yoon shouts that her arrow is ready to fire and Kim yells at her to shoot it now. Ji-yoon warns him angrily and nervously that if she misses, it's all over. She begs him not to pressure her. Kim ignores her plea, throws her over his shoulder and shouts that he wants compensation for all the blood he lost and the expensive healing stone he used earlier. The monster begins spinning around violently, preparing for a devastating area attack. It then unleashes the attack with tremendous force, causing massive destruction across the area. At the critical moment, Ji-yoon finally releases her special skill, one-shot death bow, aiming it directly at the monster. Kim charges forward, carrying Ji-yoon at full speed toward the monster, shouting at the top of his lungs for her to end it now as she prepares to release her decisive arrow. The steel giant lets out a massive roar and uses an incredibly powerful skill called World Destruction Skill. The giant slams the ground with tremendous force, causing debris to scatter everywhere around them. Kim Chol-soo is in utter shock, thinking to himself that the monster had been hiding such a dangerous skill all along. Kim quickly realizes that this attack affects the entire area and remembers that Ji-yoon only has 18 HP left while he has 100 HP because he recently revived, meaning both of them would die instantly if hit directly. Ji-yoon tries to aim at the monster, but struggles due to the overwhelming amount of flying debris. She anxiously says she can't land a clean shot in these conditions, and Kim replies that he's beginning to see something strange in his mind. At first, Ji-yoon thinks what he's seeing might be a solution to their current predicament, so she asks about his vision, but is quickly shocked when he tells her it's just memories of playing with his friends in the past. Ji-yoon sarcastically comments that what he's seeing must be his life flashing before his eyes. Suddenly something unexpected happens. A strange rift opens in the air and a sharp-clawed hand reaches out. It's quickly revealed that the hand belongs to Kim's goblin, who enters the area in a terrifying way, laughing maniacally. Kim begins screaming angrily at the goblin, yelling that it took far too long to arrive and saying it felt like a whole week since he used the summoning skill. Ji-yoon is utterly shocked by what she's witnessing and thinks to herself that she can't believe what she just saw. She wonders in disbelief if the goblin actually tore through the fabric of the dungeon itself to enter, thinking such a thing should be completely impossible. Suddenly Kim excitedly announces that he's using a secret skill called Goblin Shield, a defensive ability. The steel giant roars in fury and looks like it's preparing to launch its final attack. But Kim smirks confidently and mocks the monster, saying those are pretty bold last words for a hidden dungeon boss. Kim and Ji-yoon stand behind the goblin and declare together that the climax of the battle has finally arrived. Ji-yoon finally unleashes her ultimate skill, one-shot death bow, after fully charging it, dealing a massive 22,524 damage to the giant. The powerful strike pierces through the steel giant's body, freezing it in place as cracks begin to spread across it. The steel giant finally collapses to the ground, defeated, and a system message appears telling them they have successfully cleared the hidden dungeon, Steel Giant's Chamber. Ji-yoon stands in awe and repeats joyfully and in disbelief that they actually won, that they managed to clear the hidden dungeon. A system message then appears announcing that Ji-yoon's level has increased from 27 to 31. Another message informs Kim that his level has also increased from level 31 to level 34, and he jumps for joy at the achievement. With overwhelming excitement, Kim begins screaming hysterically, demanding to see what reward he earned from clearing the dungeon. A system message appears announcing that all characters who fell during the raid have been revived upon its completion, and the team leader in the black cloak begins asking if everyone is all right. One team member replies that he feels a bit of blood in his mouth, but confirms he's okay. He expresses relief that they defeated the monster and says that if its level had been just a bit higher, they would have been in serious danger. Suddenly, someone says with concern that Seong-rul isn't breathing, but another member sarcastically replies that if they smack him hard enough, he'll wake up. The Black Cloak leader looks sternly at Kim and Ji-yoon, and asks if they can explain exactly what just happened. But Kim, at this moment, is acting very strange, hugging all the loot that dropped from the monster and screaming hysterically, begging everyone not to come near him. Ji-yoon looks at the leader, and hesitantly says that she doesn't know how to explain what's going on with Kim right now. Meanwhile, a system message appears confirming that Kim's level has increased from 31 to 34, and Kim is seen jumping for joy, clearly thrilled. Suddenly, Kim starts screaming hysterically, demanding his reward, and repeatedly insisting that he must receive it right now. But the system message that appears before him shocks him. It states that he hasn't fulfilled the conditions to unlock a hidden class yet. Ji-yoon is also disappointed when a similar message informs her that she too hasn't met the requirements for a hidden class. She wonders in confusion if clearing a hidden dungeon isn't enough to obtain a hidden class. At the same time, Kim reflects deeply and concludes that just like he received the Goblin class, due to the Goblin Lord's favor, there must be other conditions that need to be met inside the hidden dungeon itself to qualify for a hidden class. Kim also realizes that it would have made more sense to obtain the hidden class before defeating the dungeon boss. But he stops thinking about it and decides there's no point in overthinking it now. He starts screaming again, shouting that he has to collect the monster's loot before it's too late. Ji-yoon quickly yells at him to stop, saying that even though they were the ones who landed the final blow, everyone contributed to the battle, and the loot should be shared after consulting the group. But Kim keeps screaming wildly and refuses to listen, hugging the rewards even tighter. The leader and another member stand beside Ji-yoon, watching Kim with surprise and mockery, wondering aloud if he's turning into Golem because of his obsession with the loot. Kim shouts back defensively that the loot is precious to him. The leader calmly tells Kim that despite helping them twice, they've achieved their primary goal and don't intend to be greedy about the extra loot. This surprises Kim, who wasn't expecting such nobility. Suddenly the old man approaches Kim and smacks him hard on the head, then sternly says he told Inyuk the Shadow from the start that they shouldn't have caused all this trouble. Kim becomes furious and starts yelling angrily at the old man and the team members, accusing them of betraying him not once, but twice. But the team leader replies calmly yet firmly, saying that removing Kim right now wouldn't be difficult. And if they wanted to use force, they already would have. Then the leader points to Kim and tells him that he can keep all the loot, but he points specifically to the bow Kim picked up and informs him that it's a unique item, the Iron Giant's bow, and asks if Kim realizes how valuable it is. Kim is thrown into panic and nervously yells, asking what that means, especially since he's not an archer and doesn't know how to use it. Kim internally realizes that this is a unique item that can't be sold or used unless the player belongs to a specific class, archer. But Kim shouts stubbornly, declaring that he still wants to keep it, arguing that everyone else has unique items except for him. One member snaps angrily, telling Kim to stop being greedy and hand the bow over to Ji-hoon, the bringer of death. But Kim gives a cunning smile and agrees to give up the bow, only if he gets something in return. The leader is stunned and says in disbelief that this item cannot be traded or sold, which makes it incredibly valuable. But Kim laughs maniacally and mockingly tells them that in the end, they'll have to buy the item from him or they'll never get it. Kim laughs loudly and maniacally with his goblin, while one of the guild members watches in disgust, thinking to himself that Kim really does resemble that goblin they encountered earlier. At the same time, Kim's goblin is seen hiding cautiously behind some rocks, looking nervous due to Kim's current cooperation with the Everton team, and lets out a small anxious sound. Ji-hoon, the bringer of death, holds the new unique bow that Kim gave her and comments that it's very heavy. Kim sarcastically thanks the Everton team for the exchange, and the team leader in the black cloak replies that he's been thinking about this for a while, that Kim has a special talent for making people hate him. The Black Cloak leader asks Kim where he plans to go after this, and Kim quickly and confidently answers, "Isn't it obvious?" Kim follows up with a wicked smile, saying that he's going somewhere they aren't. The leader responds that Kim is a truly twisted man. The team leader agrees with Kim's plan and says it's a good idea, then asks everyone if they're ready to leave. As they head out, Ji-hoon glances back at Kim with a look that carries both curiosity and interest. At that moment, Kim and his goblin are shown standing confidently, also preparing to leave. A system message then confirms that the hidden raid dungeon has been successfully completed. As Kim reflects, he thinks to himself that while it's unfortunate he lost the unique bow, he did get a very useful consumable item in return. Thief's Glove, which allows him to steal one item from a character lower level than him, one time only. But Kim realizes that the true prize is the high purity steel he acquired, especially since he was just a mining-focused player not long ago. Kim laughs joyfully and says that while everyone was obsessed with the unique weapon, none of them noticed the true value of the rare metal he obtained. The next day, Kim arrives in a new city called Fjornale in an area known as Phoenix Market. He's filled with awe and admiration as he sees high-level players all around the city, dressed in extravagant gear he's never seen before, and wonders to himself how much money they must be making from this game. Then Kim starts yelling strangely, saying he can smell the scent of money in this place. But he quickly remembers that before he can start making money, he needs to change his gear, especially after being shocked by the fact that he died from a single hit by a monster that was 9 levels below him. Kim realizes the reason. He's still wearing his old worn-out armor from when he was level 3, and is stunned to find that the armor even gives him negative defense stats. Suddenly, the goblin screams loudly to get Kim's attention. Kim turns to the goblin and warns it, saying he swears that if it causes any trouble in the village, he'll be seriously angry. But out of nowhere, a massive monster appears in front of them, causing Kim to scream in terror. A monster? Kim yells in frustration, demanding to know why a boss-level monster would be in a place like this, and tells the goblin to protect him immediately. Suddenly, Kim hears a woman's calm, surprised voice, saying she's never seen anyone use a goblin as a summoned creature before. A beautiful woman named Irene appears lounging on top of the monster, and asks Kim if the goblin is his summoned creature. Kim is stunned to realize there's someone riding the monster and starts to wonder if that means that the monster is also a summoned beast under another player's control. The woman calmly says that Michelle, the monster, is very obedient within the village, but Kim remains anxious, shouting that the monster is drooling heavily while looking at him. Kim looks at the woman seriously and instantly senses how strong she is. He thinks to himself that he doesn't need to fight her to know how powerful she is. He adds that this woman is so strong that most guilds, including Everton, would not stand a chance against her. If the woman approaches Kim gently, "Would you give me the honor of knowing your name?" Kim hesitates for a moment, then replies with his name, Kim Cheol-soo, but the woman smiles softly and tells him she wasn't talking to him. She was referring to the little guy beside him, pointing at the goblin who is screaming excitedly. Kim was surprised by the woman's question, asking whether the goblin had a name and not named it yet. Kim responded with clear irritation, saying it wasn't important at all. Who would think of naming a summoned monster? Is it true that she called the ugly goblin cute? The woman smiled calmly and said that one-sided relationships are often unstable. She advised Kim to take a look at his goblin. From atop the monster she was riding, she continued, explaining that the goblin had taken a defensive stance for him the moment it heard the command "protect me," despite not even being given a name, which showed just how loyal it was. She looked at Kim again with a soft gaze and told him she hoped he would not be too boring the next time they met. She then bid him farewell by name, Kim Cheol-soo, and instructed her monster, Michelle, to move. Kim responded sarcastically, shouting at her, "Thanks so much for the advice." Then added loudly and angrily that he didn't need her advice, that he and his goblin had no problems with each other. When he commanded the goblin to move, he commanded him to move. When Kim was in a gear shop, the shopkeeper stared at him in disbelief and harshly criticized the equipment Kim was wearing. He told Kim his clothes were literal garbage and that even wearing actual garbage would be an improvement. The NPC introduced himself as Humphrey the Sharp-Tongued, and Kim, flustered, tried to defend himself, saying that's exactly why he came to buy better gear. Humphrey showed him a solid piece of metal armor and mockingly said it was perfect for someone like him. Kim was shocked to see the armor cost 350 gold, which is about 40 real-world dollars. He thought deeply, realizing that even if he had a summoned creature, if he died, he'd lose instantly. So, he needed decent defense at the very least. He decided to buy armor. The shopkeeper acknowledged that at least Kim had good taste in gear and told him to use it well, since he had crafted it especially for idiots like him using high-quality steel. Kim muttered to himself that this guy lived up to his name. Kim put on the new armor feeling extremely happy and commented, "Oh, this armor is really nice." But moments later, he screamed in frustration because he couldn't move at all due to the armor's weight, while Humphrey told him that people like him shouldn't be moving in the first place. Kim realized he had put all his stat points into agility during his fight with the steel giant, and now he had to sell this heavy armor immediately. Humphrey offered to buy it back for just 30 gold and mock it, calling it garbage, which made Kim shout in anger that he was being ripped off by an NPC. Is there a golden exclamation mark above Humphrey's head? Humphrey started looking around hysterically, saying he couldn't find anything, when he discovered his special blacksmith hammer was missing and screamed in frustration, saying he couldn't craft anything without it. Kim told him he had plenty of other hammers, but Humphrey insisted that this hammer was completely different and that he needed it back right away. Humphrey explained the hammer was located in the underground waterway dungeon near the village entrance and firmly asked Kim to go retrieve it for him. A message appeared in front of Kim notifying him that he received Humphrey's problem, with the reward being the ability to refine materials to craft armor. Kim realized that the materials he obtained from the hidden monster were so valuable. They could be turned into high-tier equipment. Kim grinned wickedly and accepted the quest, confidently repeating the dungeon's name, Underground Waterways. He stood confidently at the dungeon entrance, declaring he didn't need to worry about anyone else. Would other party members slow him down? With an even bigger smile, Kim said he'd finished this easy dungeon in less than 30 minutes. But a system message soon appeared announcing a quest condition, and Kim stood stunned by the strange requirements. Kim was shocked to see Humphrey behind him, yelling in frustration and demanding that he retrieve his hammer right now. If Humphrey died, Kim screamed in confusion and annoyance, asking why this NPC was following him into the dungeon. That's it for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome manhwa content.